it's Lisa. I have 3 photos, or you could do this sketch with 2 photos, one portrait and one landscape. My portrait photo here is actually 2 4x3 photos that I have of us creating a table for our TV. Took these pictures a couple of years ago and developed them, or had them developed and printed. I keep saying we don't develop anymore, we print. But I forgot to take a picture of the actual finished product. So I finally got around to doing that. When we bought a new TV a couple of years ago, I could not find a stand that I liked. Everything was too tall, too wide, or too skimpy for holding the TV. So I wanted something shorter and narrower that would still support it. So we made our own, and we went to Lowe's and we got some shelf boards that have a curved front edge to them and used those for the 2 levels so we'd have a place to put the DVD player. Bought some cute little feet and some dowels to sort of hold all this together, and came up with our design. And it's not fancy, the screws could be countersunk a little bit more, but it works, and it's supporting the TV very nicely. So I have photos of us as we're working here putting this together, and me painting and painting and painting to get this thing to look in a nice pretty glossy black. And so the idea behind it is, to me, the TV should disappear. The only time I want to know the TV's there is when it's on. So it actually sits in front of the fireplace, because we don't use our fireplace, and I've got it all sized so that it takes up the same amount of room as the black cover to the doors that went over the original gas logs in the fireplace. So it's obvious there's a TV there, but it doesn't really stand out and say, hey, I'm the TV. So that's my opinion about televisions. But anyway, that's what we did, and I have the photos of that, and I've been wanting to scrap it for a long time. For the page, I'm going to use a black background, kind of go with the black color that we used for painting the stand. But I thought I'd add some extra color to this page with some die cuts. And what I'm die cutting is this cross shape. And you're going to see me do this over on the silhouette. And we're going to cut these little crosses out of different papers, probably some 6x6 and maybe some scrap 12x12 papers in all different colors. And the idea there is that they'll all fit together, because we had to fit everything together, and we spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to do this and accomplish what I wanted to, since woodworking is not our natural thing. We don't do that very often. And then the rest of the sketch is a pretty straightforward arrangement. So I'm going to pick out some different papers, and we're going to go over to the silhouette, and I'll show you in the software how I'm going to create this design. I got the idea for this from the Cuts software. They have one of these images already built in, but they don't quite all fit together in that software. So I thought I would just do it on the silhouette software, since it's what everybody who has a silhouette has, and show you how to make this yourself. It's really simple.
Before we get into the silhouette software, let's pick out some papers that we're going to use to cut our crosses with. And I'm doing a bunch of different 6x6 pads. Some of these I have used. I have one brand new one, or brand new to me. It's called B-Side from Basic Gray, and I picked it up at Tuesday morning. This is some crepe paper, and since I'm using pad I've used before, I pulled out a few of the things that I've already cut on, since I just need, these are going to be about 3 inches by 3 inches, so like that little stripe there will work. Doing some colors and some gray and whites, kind of blend into the background paper. And I'll try to organize these for the background so that the busier papers are not behind the journaling and that kind of thing. I really like the one there with those cassette tapes on it, because we had to buy a DVD player, new one, when we did this. I can easily create the design that I want in the silhouette using a couple of rectangles. I'm going to click on the Draw Rectangle tool and draw a roughly 1 inch by 3 inch rectangle. And to make this easy to see, I'm going to select it and fill it with a color. This is just to make it easy for us to look at. I do want to get this the exact size that I'd like for it to be, which is 1 inch wide by 3 inches high. I'll open the scale window. uncheck lock aspect. That would keep it in proportion, and I don't want to do that. I want to go ahead and put in 1 by 3 and apply that. And now I have the size that I want, and I'm just going to select it and do a Control D for duplicate and rotate it so that it's a perfect 90 degrees. Now if you're not as comfortable with rotating it, and sometimes I don't get, I'm not quite as good at it as I'd like to, there is a rotate option over on the rotate window. Alright, now I'm going to put these together, centered pretty closely here, but I'll leave it just a little bit off center so you can see what I'm going to do. I'm going to select both of these, and you can click and drag around them, or go to Object, Align, Align Center, Object, Align, Align Middle. And that would move this one up if it needed to go. So they are a perfect cross at this point. Select them again and use the weld option. You can right click and choose weld, or use the weld button on the bottom of the screen. So now I have the cross shape that I'm wanting, and I can just cut as many of these as I want, but to show you how they're going to look, I'm going to select this and duplicate it, and let's change the color again, just again to make it easy to see. And let's duplicate this one again and give it another color. And you'll see what's going to happen with these is they're going to fit perfectly within, connected together on my page. So this is what's going to form my background for my design. So I'm just going to cut a bunch of these different ones out of different papers, and then we'll put them all together on the background. So I have all of these cut out, just pulling a few more off the mat, and I position them so I could cut typically 2 per sheet. And then I'm just going to be fitting all of these together, and I've gotten a scrap piece of paper here to place some of them on, and then I can transfer them over to the black background and glue them down at the same time. So again, I'm taking the ones that have more color and pattern and putting those kind of in the outer corners so they'll show up, they won't be buried behind a photo, and they won't be in the way of the title and other things. And you can see how they fit perfectly together. So it's just sort of a puzzle, putting all these together and deciding how I want to arrange them. And I want to leave some of the black background showing as well, so I don't want them to go all the way to the edges. We can kind of lay the photos over and make sure that what's showing is what I want showing, and I don't have any of them too close together. And for gluing something down like this, I just put my adhesive down in strips, and then anything that doesn't get stuck good enough, I can add a little bit more adhesive to the back of it. And I did need to get my ruler out to get these on straight. And this adhesive sticks really, really good, so get them on there good and straight. And then once I get a couple of them in position, the rest of them will just lay in place and I won't need the ruler anymore. Of course, you could do other shapes like hexagons or squares that fit together. Now I feel like the photo of the two individual pictures there, that portrait photo, I think it needs something behind it because it's getting a little lost in all of these. So I'm going to end up matting that one once I get the rest of the background arranged, and I will need to trim the edges off the background too. And I found that the large adhesive tape gun was a little too large to manage, so I got my smaller Tombow adhesive out to kind of finish the gluing. I also ended up with some adhesive up there at the top that wasn't covered with the little checks. So I'm going to use this light gray wood grain for a mat. It makes a perfect mat for that photo. It goes with the whole theme here. And there was one I didn't like the color of it, so I just glued a different check on top of it. Now for embellishment, I remembered that I had some things with furniture. And this is chipboard that you can paint or color with markers or whatever. I didn't have a table, you know, quite like what we were doing here, and there were some TVs that came with this pack, and I've already used them for other things, but I did have this larger piece. It's really kind of an armoire, but it still gives the furniture impression. So I want to paint it a dark gray, just experimenting on a scrap piece of the chipboard. The only thing about this stuff is that when you do a color over it, especially a dark color, the details start to disappear a little bit. So I'm going to have to do some outlining or something to get the details to show up. So we'll paint this with a dark gray paint, including the sides, and let that dry. And then I tried taking some black paint and going kind of around the edges to sort of shade in these, but it didn't work well. It just, if I'd had some gloss or something over it where I could have blended the colors, but it just didn't work. So I ended up going back over it with gray, and I'll do something else to make those doors and drawers show up. Okay, this is good and dry, and we're going to take some silver pens to color in the door handles and the drawer pulls. Of course, we don't have those on our TV stand, but you get the idea. And then I'm just taking a black marker, it's a Faber-Castell marker, the Pitt markers, and going around the edges. I'm a little sloppy. It doesn't, I don't think, show up too much in the video, but I'm not super precise with this. But then our building project wasn't the most precise thing either. It's pretty good, but if you looked closely at all the details, you'd probably find a flaw here or there. So I think it all works out. And then this has a peel off back, and we're going to add some other words to it to give it a little bit more emphasis. I had several word stickers that I thought would be good to use. Unique, inspired, and then I have one that says makes me happy, because it made me happy to get this TV stand in place, and we did it for, I think it cost me about $55 or something, so cheaper than I could buy one, and I got more precisely what I wanted. It's going to have kind of a long title, so I'll fill in the rest of that, and it says, if you cannot buy it, build it yourself. So I'm using some mini markets and then some other thickers, and I did my journaling and strips on my typewriter.
I added a brad up here to kind of balance a little bit of the silver and the embellishment down in this corner. So we have our cool background with these checks cut out of lots of different 6x6 pads, and our journaling here, and a kind of a long title, but using smaller letters we could fit all that in. And I'm really pleased with how this element came out with the words on top of it. You'll find the sketch over on my blog. Oh, and there was one thing I left off the sketch. I had on here originally some washi tape, but I did this mat around there, so I don't think I need that. But anyway, you'll find the sketch over on my blog, and I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you do, I love to get a like on my post. It helps, I think, YouTube promote my channel. I've reached over 7,000 subscribers now, and I'm very, very grateful for all of you. Thank you so much.